Shana Tova. This is the second in our series of videos in which we explore the work that we do between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And we're playing, kind of building on the theme that is introduced in Unetana Tokef. Of course, the prayer that talks about our fate being in the hands of the heavenly court and being so uncertain about how this year will turn out and what is our destiny. And the text, the liturgy, ends by saying that Teshuvah and Tefillah and Tzedakah, Mavirin et Roah HaGzerah, that acts of returning, of atonement, and acts of prayer of the heart, and acts of tzedakah, of charitable giving, being charitable with ourselves also, and charitable with others. That's how we can actually impact and take control over how our destiny unfolds. And so yesterday we began with one insight into Teshuvah. Today is the second. And I want to actually open with something that I hear very often during this period that I think is quite unhealthy, which is that I think a lot of folks sort of imagine that they have to become someone entirely different during these Aseret Yemei Teshuvah, these 10 days of returning, that they have to sort of let go of the person they used to be and become someone entirely brand new. And I think it's really self-defeating, and it's pretty unhealthy. Right? All the self-help books in the world can't help, cause you to transform into someone entirely different. Reb Nachman actually teaches it's not only unhealthy and self-defeating, but it's actually an affront. It's an insult to God, our Creator, who created us in the divine image, that we would look at ourselves, look inward, and say, we're not good enough. We have to become someone new. We have to get rid of ourselves, do tashlich of the self. We are good enough. We are good enough. But the key is that we just have to put in the work. And so what I want to focus on today is about that continuation between the person that we were and the person that we want to become, and understand that those two are actually one and the same. And they're rooted here in the now, in the present moment. I don't know if you've ever opened up a Torah scroll, but maybe you've unfurled the parchment, and maybe you've noticed that the first letter of almost all of the columns, there are 248 columns, all but 4 of them begin with the letter Vav, which is Hebrew for the word and. In other words, every column as it finishes, it's as if the scribe, continuing the next column, says, and there's more, and there's more. And by the way, they're connected. Every verse is connected to the next verse, every chapter to the next one, every book to the next one. And every single column beginning with the letter Vav, of course with the exception of only 4 of them, which means that for the most part, all of these stories are a continuation one from the next. Now, this tradition goes back to the 13th century, where there was this idea that the Torah scroll should represent the Mishkan, the tabernacle, the sacred place that the Israelites built and took with them as they traveled through the desert. Right? And in the tabernacle, there were tapestries held in place by these tiny little hooks. And the tapestries stretched from one column to another all the way around. And of course, the Hebrew word for a tiny little hook is a vav. Hence, each column had a vav on top. So of the tabernacle, there are 3 elements that are mimicked or represented in the Torah scroll. The first is yiriot, the curtains, which is the parchment that we use to write the Torah scroll on. Then there are the amudim, the columns, right? The same word for a physical amud, an architectural amud, is the same word for a column in the text. And then the vavim, the hooks that hold up the curtains. So each column is held up by one little vav. So what this teaches us is that Teshuvah is not meant to be a full break from the previous columns of your life. It's a continuation. Our Exodus story is a continuation of our creation story. The laws that bind us to one another and to God are directly connected to the internal strife that almost tore us apart. The God that destroys is the very same one who saves and the very same one who creates. And the you that failed in this past year is a continuation of the you that will succeed in the year to come. The you that allowed yourself to love and be loved is the same you that once pulled away. The you of your aspirations, of your dreams, of your hopes, of your intentions, of 5781 is just one vav, one and away from the you of today, and the you of today is just one vav away from the you of yesterday, of 5780. And so as we set our sights on doing teshuvah, on returning to oneself, let us remember that there is no self to throw away, there is no self to let go of, there is no self to do tashlich with. That self, that version of you that will live into your aspirations, or at least get closer to them in the year to come, is the very same you that stands here today and the very same you that was there with you yesterday. And so our work is not in recreating ourselves. It's in understanding that all of those yous are one and the same. And all of them are beloved, and all of them have been created in the divine image and have infinite value as such. Gmar Chatima Tova. May your seal in the book of life be for good.